like, holy crap, let's get out of here.
Like over and over he says, "Are you a man? Are you a man?"
I don't have time for that.
We're in someone's house.
Our mosquito swatter was confiscated. The dogs, on the other hand,
it's a skull.
Mosquitoes just fled into the plane.
Like it's the family around, and
that was my new toilet experience in Vientiane. We've been dealing with cold, windy, cloudy weather for the past several days. Now we finally have some sunshine, so we're gonna go film. But first things first is that we have to find a location. So I think we're gonna head up to this parking lot that's up the street, and fingers crossed that it's empty, because if so, then we can film there. Let's go.
We usually come to this parking lot all the time to kind of catch sunsets or exercise. It's just off a kind of slightly busy road, and we got to go up this hill to get to it. Can't quite see it yet, but we'll be there. Usually it takes about 5 minutes. Hey buddy.
It's starting to get chilly. So, lucky us, the parking lot is empty, which figures because this is actually a church parking lot right up the street from us, and it's not a Sunday, so nobody's here in the parking lot, so we can use it to film.
There's something really cool about this parking lot that I can't show you right now because the sun has to go down just a little bit more, but I call this the Slender Man, and I'm gonna show you that as soon as the sun goes down a little bit more. It's pretty funny.
All right, perfect. We are here alone. We actually have been coming up to this church parking lot almost every day to catch the sunset and to exercise. And if you're thinking by our comments on the weather and the scenery that this doesn't look too much like Asia, then you would be thinking correct, because we actually came back to our home state of Georgia to visit some family, and so we are going to go ahead and tell you now what surprised us about being in Laos. So things that we didn't know beforehand or things that caught us off guard, just to share with you all and get some feedback. But before we do that, just like we've done in the previous episodes where we detail things that surprise us about each new country we've visited, go ahead and place your best guess in the comments for our next destination, and we will be revealing that in the next video. It will be in Southeast Asia, so we're not going to stay in the US for long, so let us know your best guess in the comments. Alright, so the first thing to talk about is just pronunciation. So for speaking about the country of Laos, we've seen lots of debate whether to pronounce it Laos or Lao for the actual country. So give us what you think in the comments, because it seemed like maybe that locals called the country Lao and foreigners called it Laos with the S, but I can't really draw a complete consensus on that, because I feel that we heard some locals while we were in Vientiane discuss Laos the country, but say it with the S on. So I don't know. Let us know what you think and your perspective, and also where you're from. So if you are from Laos or Southeast Asia, or if you are a foreigner. All right, now about actually being in the country itself. So we stayed in the capital city of Vientiane for the entire month that we were there. We had an apartment pretty close to the Mekong River, and the first thing that we noticed right after exiting the airport was we were in a capital city, but it felt nothing like being in a capital. There was no big skyscraper buildings, there wasn't tons of people, there wasn't tons of traffic, no large streets that we saw. Like, everything just seemed kind of dead for a city, actually. I mean, there was just not many people out, and we didn't see many cars, and when we were driving from the airport to our apartment, our first thought is, oh, we're on the outskirts and going the back way. But really, we were actually right in the city going through it, cutting through to get to our apartment. And that was the first time that we've actually been in a really, or in a capital city, and it just felt nothing like it at all. It was actually just really cool. It was super laid back and not busy at all. Something else that was very apparent to us as we were on the way from the airport to our apartment was the streets. They were paved roads, but there was so much dust and dirt. So like a dirt road almost, but it was paved with just kind of like a coat of dirt on it, or like gathered up all around the curbs. And we saw that all month while we were there. On every street that was an actual paved street, there was just lots of dust and dirt everywhere. So I'm not sure, you know, what causes that or what causes it to accumulate. If you know, let us know in the comments. It wasn't really a big deal, except for one time when we went for a run, but that's a story coming up in a little bit. So in terms of transportation, that's what we'll touch on next, is how to get around. And for us, we like to walk everywhere, so you've probably noticed in all of the other countries we've visited, walking is the mode of transportation that we prefer. But for longer routes in Vientiane specifically, there are many places that you can rent bicycles. And from our Airbnb, our host actually suggested that we rent bicycles from them if we didn't want to walk. We didn't ever take them up on that offer. We just stuck to walking usually. But in addition to bicycles, renting them, you can also rent a motorbike. They also have tuk-tuks everywhere, which we utilized a couple of times, and for reasonable rates. And they do not have Grab or Uber. So Laos actually has their own ride sharing service. It's called Loca, and we used it twice, and both times were worked out perfectly good. It's just like Grab or Uber in terms of hiring a car through the app and having GPS and your fare displayed up front. So it's very similar, but it's called Loca.
Loca.
Yeah.
Loca.
All right.
I'm loco for sure.
So I believe that there are also taxis in Vientiane, but unlike everywhere else we've been, so Bali, Myanmar, Singapore, Malaysia, where there's an abundance of taxis with, you know, you can very much tell that they're taxis because it says it on the car. We didn't see that in Vientiane. We didn't see many, I mean, I'm not recalling any, but I wasn't looking for them, cars that actually display that they were a taxi. So I'm not sure how prevalent they are there, but we never used them. Whenever we did need a car, just 2 times we used the Loca app.
This is Slender Man. One cool thing about Laos that we kind of saw was that most of the businesses were also houses. So typically there'd be like 2-story places, and it'd be on the bottom there'd be a family running a business, and then on the top it looked like, or either the top or the back, there'd be the residence where people lived. So that was kind of like a unique thing that we saw. I mean, we've seen it in other places, but here it was really really prevalent. Pretty much everywhere you looked, you saw this kind of a setup. So there was a couple of places that we frequented a lot that had this type of setup, and mainly there was like this one place down the street, and we kind of looked at this as like a convenience store. They had like eggs, toilet paper, drinks, all like little snacks and stuff like that. And I believe the family like actually had like chickens in the back. We never saw them, but this is the way it seemed to be, is that chickens would be in the back and they would be bringing the eggs, you know, and selling them in the front of the store. And these eggs that we got from this place that was right down the street from us, they were like the big brown ones, and the yolks were like so yellow, or so not yellow, they were so orange, because yellow is what we're used to seeing back in the States. And but what we saw here for the first time was like super yellow yolks. And I'm so used to yellow yolks, orange yolks. We saw super orange yolks, and come to find out, these types of eggs actually indicate that chickens have more diverse diets. It was like our first night in Laos, and this is a hilarious story. but we were walking, I think we were going to the grocery store, or maybe we had just found a little shop to eat at, but we were on our way back to the house, and we stopped at another little convenience store on one of these ones that's like mixed with the house on the side. And it was like a Friday night, I think, so it was like the family was like in the house part, and they were all like around the table drinking. And there was like one family member, I think it was like the female of the house, was up front, and like we were trying to purchase some water from her. So we're like doing our financial transaction in a little convenience store part up front, and then this guy comes from the back, and he's got this like glass jar. It's a skull, and he's like holding it up, and there's like this bone looking thing inside, and he's asking me like over and over. He says, "Are you a man? Are you a man?" And I'm just like, what? And he's like, tiger bone, are you a man? And he's trying to get me to take a shot. And then like all the guys in the back, there was like the rest of the family was like around this little table, and they're all like looking and kind of laughing. And I was just like, no. He's like, "You're not a man?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm a man, but not right now. We just got here. It's like our first night." So yeah, it was just like, holy crap, is this gonna be, you know, a trend for the rest of the time we're here? On your first night, some guy's trying to get you to drink some tiger bone, like we don't even know what it was, some type of vodka. But yeah, that was like pretty funny. Another funny story with regards to like these businesses and households kind of like being mixed. We were trying to find like this Mexican place one night. I think it was called Gringos, and you know, we hadn't had Mexican in a while, so we saw this one on the map, and we're like, all right, let's try this out. And we're walking down the street, and we come up on where we think is the location. There's like all this music going. It sounded like a really lively bar. And so we walk into this building, and we're just standing there, and there's like a lot of people around, but no one's like helping us or telling us what to do or anything. And so we're kind of confused. And then people start coming up, and nobody speaks English, and they're like trying to just understand what we want. And we're in someone's house, like it's the family around, and they're just all like kind of smiling and laughing at us because it seems like they know what's happening, that we're lost. But anyways, I was like signaling like food, you know, like we're here to eat. And then they had like this cooler, and they tried to give us beers. They're like, "You want beer?" And we're just like, "This isn't the restaurant." And they're like, no, and everyone's laughing. And it turned out that the restaurant, you had to walk like down to get to the restaurant. So we just all kind of laughed, and we went and ate at this Gringos restaurant. And then it was funny because on the way back out, we had to pass by these people, and they were all like laughing in the back when we passed by, just pretty much making fun of us. But yeah, that was funny. It just took us a while to get used to being able to identify, like, this kind of thing seems straightforward. You would think that it seems straightforward, but when you get out in these new places, and just having kind of the ability to identify where a business is versus like a residential, if it's not what you're used to, you can kind of get in these weird situations. And luckily everybody's nice, and at least in our case, and they just laugh and tell us which way to go.
In regards to local businesses, there's no shortage of good bakeries around Vientiane. There are bakeries on every corner selling fresh bread and pastries and dessert, everything. And we had good bread. Basically, anytime we'd buy bread from a bakery, regardless of which bakery it was from, it was always delicious. So I don't know if the bread culture spilled over from the French during the French colonization of Laos or what, but definitely the bakeries were on point. Now, something kind of interesting is that we've noticed this around Southeast Asia in general, but due to the heat at the time that we were in Vientiane, we had got there right after rainy season ended, and so there was never any rain, barely any clouds. It was always hot and sunny. It was, I think, in like the 90s Fahrenheit our entire month there, which we enjoyed because we like the hot weather. But the locals during the day, nobody would be out. So if we went for a walk throughout the day, or we went down to the Mekong River, or we went to go eat lunch somewhere, we would be like, it was like a dead ghost town. We would be the only ones out. But during the night time, however, as soon as the sun goes down, schools are being let out, and people are going out to dinner or to have drinks or to just sit outside of their houses or shops, walk around, do exercise. Everyone comes out. So it's like no one's out during the day, everyone comes out during the night, and our only guess is that it just has to be how hot it is, and people are just like, I don't have time for that. I'm waiting until it's nighttime to do whatever I'm doing outside. So one time though, because we like to exercise outside, we decided that we were going to go for a run along the Mekong River. And that ended up being quite a mistake because, for one, I mean, it was so hot, no cloud coverage, no shade, so we were super sweaty. I mean, that's a given. But given the dust on the streets that we talked about before, as we were running, there was just so much dust from the street coming up because the kind of sidewalk that we took to run was right next to the street, and it was just not worth the dust. So we made that mistake once and we won't make it again. So find somewhere else to run if you're wanting to run during the day in Vientiane. But just regarding working out outside, like if you've seen previous videos from Chris and me, like we've shown kind of in every country about like how we like to exercise and what we're using for exercise. So lots of places in Southeast Asia we've seen so far that it's custom to just have these calisthenic free workout parks just in abundance everywhere. So that's been excellent, and we found one in Vientiane close to the Mekong River, but it was pretty run down. It wasn't really kept up, so we didn't really get a chance to use that. We visited it once and it was okay, but we just found other means for exercise for the month. But with it being so hot, something pretty funny is that when we would go places during the day, like small locally owned shops or restaurants, people very often would be asleep in the shops, like the employees. For example, like we went to eat, actually it was dinner, but it was an early dinner, maybe about 5 o'clock, so the sun wasn't down yet, and we walked into the shop to eat, and there was the employee there, and she was asleep, and we had to kind of like wake her up, nudge her a little bit to get her attention, to say like, hey, we're here to eat. But we saw that really like all month, and it wasn't ever a big deal to us. As soon as we'd wake them up, then they were ready to help us out. But I feel like, you know, back home, that if you're asleep on the job, then you're gonna be in trouble, or it's shameful or something like that, and that just wasn't the culture at all. It seemed to just be widely accepted that if you're on the job and it's during the day and it's hot out, and there's no business coming in, and you're a locally owned business, then take a nap if you want. It didn't really seem to be frowned upon at all. So that kind of goes with like the really laid back and chill lifestyle of Vientiane that we experienced all month, and we really liked. In general, the people in Laos are so friendly. I feel that every time people travel to a new place, they always say, oh, the people are the best part and they're so friendly, and I'm sure that a lot of times that's true. But seriously, the Lao people were so just hospitable and so welcoming in a way that we haven't experienced in such abundance before. Like they were just so nice, and like how we talked about before, the houses being businesses, when we would go in and just purchase something from a local convenience store that was also someone's house, they might like ask us if we wanted to sit down and have a beer, or if someone was sitting outside having dinner, they would like, you know, offer, you know, if we wanted some too. And that happened very frequently. Everybody, as we'd walk down the streets, like people that were out for their businesses would always be saying hello or greeting us, but actually not hello. That leads to another point, is that there's a few Lao phrases that will get you a long way in terms of being polite. So the way that you greet someone, a polite hello, is you say sabaidi, and so you might have heard that throughout all of our videos of being in Vientiane. When we would greet someone or when someone would greet us, that greeting is sabaidi. And additionally, kopjai is thank you, so we tried to use that as much as possible to express thanks, and kopjai lalai means thank you very much. So those three phrases we used in abundance, and those are about the extent of our Lao language knowledge, but it did get us a long way. And I think that it's respectful to try to use, you know, at least greetings and some polite manners in the local language of countries that you visit. For us, we've liked doing that, and it's worked out well for us.
Yeah, we always try to learn at least hello and thank you, and then depending on how easy the language is, we'll try to do more.
Yeah, that's great. probably the language that we learned the most is Malay. I think we learned the most. I mean, we were in Kuala Lumpur for 3 months. We were also in Bali for 1 month, where they speak Indonesian, which is very, very similar to Malay. So that's probably so far the country where we've learned and adopted the language the most while we were there.
Nasi goreng, mie goreng, tom yum, good.
The beer culture in Laos is very prevalent. So everyone drinks beer Lao. So that is their, I guess, national local beer, obviously, as indicated by the name, beer Lao. And that's what we drank as well. Prices are pretty good on it. So for the equivalent of like a large, around 24-ounce beer, it was about 10,000 kip, which is roughly $1.15. So that was good prices. The taste was good. And yeah, it seemed like people every night were just out in restaurants or outside of their local businesses drinking beer Lao. And as you saw in the video for the boat racing festival, which was probably one of our most favorite nights in Vientiane, there was free-flowing beer Lao everywhere, and we were being offered beer Laos left and right. Now, while the Lao people are warm and welcoming, the dogs, on the other hand, are another story. So all throughout Southeast Asia, we've dealt with stray dogs all year. That's just like a given. They've never bothered us, but usually their personalities, I guess, are very lazy and just like lethargic, or like they don't care about humans walking around them. But in Vientiane, the dogs are so hyper and energetic. At first we thought that they were like aggressive, but it just seemed like they were really hyper. So they might growl a little bit and bark and start running towards you. We never had any weird run-ins. A couple times we were kind of nervous just because we're not used to dogs like doing that. We're mostly used to them just ignoring us. But yeah, all the stray dogs, or even some of them had collars, but they were not like chained or in fences or anything like that. They'll kind of come after you and they want to know what you're up to and not necessarily want you around their domain. So that was new to us in Vientiane.
But yeah, there was like one time we were walking down this like alleyway area. You remember that? And then this like junkyard looking dog came. Yeah. And we were like, I mean, like, we're not
about to get real. We're
not really like afraid of dogs. We like them, but you can't tell with dogs, you know, what they're gonna do. So we were like, we need to go back the other way. And so we
actually did turn around that night, because it was at night, we couldn't see well, and there was more than one dog actually that night that caused us to turn around and be like, all right, we're gonna go the longer way, because we don't know how aggressive you're about to be, because he was already growling and he didn't seem like the most friendly. Every time we do one of these episodes where we're sharing what we've learned about a new country or our experience, reflecting, surprises, we end up with this issue where the sun's going down, because we're master procrastinators on certain things, and I think filming these surprises videos always creeps up on us and we just procrastinate. We finally got a nice sunny day, but we didn't come out until a couple hours before sunset, and things take longer than you think, and now we're losing light. Just like in pretty much any other Southeast Asian country that we've lived in so far, Vientiane does have its fair share of mosquitoes. So in abundance, they were around. We stayed covered in mosquito repellent pretty much all the time. And actually something that was really convenient is that most restaurants that had outdoor seating, they had mosquito repellent on the table for you to use. So that was nice. We stayed covered. And actually, if you saw the video that we did on grocery shopping in Laos, you know that we bought one of the electric mosquito swatters, and that was perfect for our apartment, because they would just really easily get inside. And you know, if you don't have one of those, it's really hard. Like before, we were just using the clap method to kill the mosquitoes, but that is hit or miss and doesn't really work. So the mosquito squatter, the mosquito
I thought you said mosquito squad.
The mosquito squads were taken out by our mosquito swatter really easily. This truck like just came up. I thought they were going to try to hit us. I'm not sure what's going on.
Weird.
Yeah, they just circled us. So yes, we did buy a mosquito swatter from D-Mart for the equivalent of like $3, and it was perfect. But what is very unfortunate is that when we left Vientiane, our mosquito swatter was confiscated at the airport. We packed it because it would have been really useful to travel with. It was really lightweight and it was perfect. Mosquitoes are so annoying, we hate them. And but yeah, they wouldn't let us through security with it. I guess it could pose as a hazard or a risk or a weapon or something, so we lost our mosquito swatter, unfortunately. Which, frankly, the funny thing about that is when we first landed in Laos, we had to like stop at, where did we stop? Luang Prabang, which is another city in Laos. Yeah, and then this was mosquito squad, like 10 mosquitoes. I mean, no joke. We had a layover in Luang Prabang on our way to Vientiane, and when we got back onto the plane, no, it was right when the plane's doors opened. When the plane doors opened for us to get off at the Luang Prabang airport, which I'm probably butchering the name of that city, but like mosquitoes just fled into the plane, and we were like, holy crap, let's get out of here. We got into the airport. We were laid over for like an hour. We got back on the plane to go to Vientiane, and they filled the plane again, and so it was only about an hour long, if even, ride or flight, and the whole time it was just, we were trying to cover ourselves and swat mosquitoes. It was a mess, but yeah, so definitely keep yourselves covered in mosquito repellent while in Laos. While Mandy's looking up the next topic, I'm gonna show you this awesome sunset in the background. This is where we come frequently to catch the sunset. Sun's just gone down behind those trees, and we're getting kind of like bluish, pinkish colors. And we can also see the moon. Just there. Anyway, all right, what is the next topic? The next topic is toilets. Great. No, this is just a small kind of side note. We've had our fair share of new toilet and bathroom experiences all year in Southeast Asia. It's been quite interesting. But there's a new toilet experience that I had in Vientiane, and it was, we were at a restaurant, and there was a sign next to the toilet, and it said, please flush toilet after use. And it's like, yes, like, of course. And it was a Western toilet, and, but, well, sort of, I guess. It was a porcelain toilet that you sit on. It was a porcelain toilet that you sit on. It wasn't a squatty potty. But, so after using the toilet, I went to flush, but there wasn't like a handle to flush. But on the other side of the bathroom, there was like this big barrel. I mean, this is very big, bigger than me, and probably, you know, as tall as this, and filled with water. And it had a bucket. And I was like, well, the sign said be sure to flush the toilet, but there's no handle to flush, so there's a big bucket of water. I mean, I didn't, or a barrel of water with a bucket. I was just not really exactly sure what to do, but I put two and two together and realized, okay, this is a manual flush, I guess, where you get the water from the barrel with the bucket and you pour it into the toilet to flush it that way, rather than using like a handle to make that happen. So that was my new toilet experience in Vientiane. Frankly, it's where you learned how toilets actually work. Yeah, that's where I learned how toilets actually work, because my idea of how toilets work before was that when you flushed, that there was like some suction that happened, that the water from the tank would come through the toilet and the suction would come down to the bowl, the water would, and that suction would bring it through the pipes. Apparently that's not right. It's gravity pulling the water down the toilet. So thank you, Vientiane restaurant, for teaching me how toilets work.
Which I think some of them, like definitely in planes, they have like some type of suction, yeah. But most toilets, it's just gravity. If you're a toilet expert and we don't know what we're talking about, hit us up in the comments.
I think toilet experts are called plumbers.
Yes.
Something really interesting is that we noticed there were Range Rovers all over Vientiane, which kind of signaled like maybe large wealth inequality, because some people would be on, or lots of people would be on scooters and bicycles and tuk-tuks, and then there would also be so many Range Rovers. And what was just kind of odd to us is, even if there was a large wealth gap, that you would think that there would be some diversity in the luxury vehicles, but there really wasn't much at all. So we don't know why Range Rovers specifically were so popular in Vientiane. If you happen to know why that is, then let us know in the comments, because we just thought that it was a bit odd. And but it was similar to what we described in our video where we talked about our surprises about Myanmar, about the luxury cars versus cars on the low end, kind of displaying large wealth inequality or a large wealth gap. That's also appeared to be the case with Vientiane, and you could see that with housing as well. Like older, rundown, not really maintained well houses versus like big, huge mansions that were just monstrous and very nice looking. So that kind of indicated like a large wealth gap as well. Alright, if it looks like I'm starting to get a little bit uncomfortable, it's because I am. It's getting cold, the sun is gone, we don't have the warmth of the light any longer, and so we only have a couple of things left to talk about before we get to go back inside where it's warm. My brother is getting off work right now, I think, and he's driving by because he saw us from the road. I think he might make his big debut on the vlog. So you may have seen in previous videos, specifically I think it's most apparent in the boat racing festival, but we were given this signal like this by Lao locals in the camera, like with their fingers. So I don't know, I guess a lot of times when people come into camera or get on camera in like a random way, that they'll give a peace sign or they'll stick their tongue out or something, but we were given this very often by Lao locals, and I don't know if this is a Lao thing or what it is. I tried to look it up online and I couldn't draw any particular conclusion. So whether it's a Lao thing or not, what is the signal? Is there any meaning?
But it looks like just a gun.
Yeah, it looks like a gun.
You gotta put it like up to your face.
Okay, so they might kind of like do like a smile, which I think I've seen this be like, this is the sign that the Joker used on Batman.
Oh,
so, like,
yeah, I was just thinking about the Joker just now.
But yeah, a lot of times it would be closer to their face like that. So I don't know if there's any significance or meaning behind it, if it's linked to a Lao thing or not. But if you know, then let us know in the comments. The last thing to say about Vientiane and about the country of Laos in general is that we absolutely loved it. Like, we enjoyed our month there so much, and we just feel that it is a really underrated place, especially to the neighboring Southeast Asian countries that get a lot of hype and get a lot of media time by other people on YouTube and stuff. Vientiane was just awesome, and we loved it. I mean, it's less developed than some of the surrounding places we've been. It's got less tourism, but I think that that's part of the charm about it. Like, it just seems like a really unique place for the area that it's in. So we really enjoyed our month there. We definitely recommend going there if you are on the fence about it, and we would love to return and also explore more of the country as well.
Yeah, okay, so if you're gonna go, tell them when to go.
If you go to Laos, then the best time to go and you know, we're not experts, but I have to think that this is the best time, is during the boat racing festival. That was one of the funnest nights that we had all year. It was so fun. Everyone was so friendly and welcoming, and we were just so happy to kind of be part of that celebration. It goes by the lunar calendar, so you're gonna have to look it up online to see when it will fall in the coming years. But the boat racing festival in Vientiane, and I'm sure that they celebrate it throughout the country as well, that was just such a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise I think it's pretty, like, when you hear, like, if you Google it, you're gonna see people saying, like, don't go to Laos because
yeah, we couldn't
it's
believe
boring.
that when we saw it. People were saying that it was a boring place, or
yeah, no way.
yeah.
So I mean, one thing is it's gonna be pretty laid back, which we like.
Yes.
But if you're wanting to go on vacation or to visit and you want like action, there's plenty of action. You just need to go during the boat racing festival. So look that up online, boat racing festival in Laos. And I don't know this for sure, but based on how the Lao people were during that time, I would say go during any national holiday.
Yeah, during any holiday, any celebration, anything like that. I mean, they were loads of fun, so energetic, and yeah, just the vibe of the place and the people was so great. We will definitely be back. We loved Vientiane. As it's gone for all the other videos that we've done where we are reflecting or getting your guys' opinions on a country that we visited, we started during the day and we are ending at night. We have run out of light. These videos go pretty long. We don't realize ahead of time how much, I guess, we have to say, but as mentioned before, it is cold, so we are going to go in now. Go ahead, like I said at the beginning of the video, leave your best guess of our next destination in the comments, and we will see you in the next one.